please ask our next speaker, Ana Aguirre, to join us. Thanks a lot for coming all the way from, not from Spain, not from Berlin, not from, I mean, it's
a mess.
You'll see that it's quite dynamic also in traveling. So, Ana, you're the co-founder and you're worker of Tas device. Even for Spanish, it's quite sometimes challenging to use this euskera or the Basque country, the Basque language. Very beautiful but challenging. And this is you are a young, innovative team. You are motivated. You always remark that to change the world, which is also something that you will always find us there also together with you in different ways, but through cooperatives. We heard from our speakers today, and now we know more about our YOUCOOPE project, so we would love to hear your reflections, the work you do, and how can we, again, synergies, collaborate, cooperate. So, Ana, thank you a lot, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks for having me. First of all, I mean, this was super inspiring. I come from a very cooperative region in the Basque country, and we try really hard to create spaces for youth to actually, take over this movement, because sad or not, reality is that the cooperative movement, especially in Europe, is not necessarily super young in general, because I am considered one of the youngest people in the movement, and I'm already 30, so this is concerning. So having spaces like this that actually fosters at least the acknowledgement of the cooperative movement for kids and young adults, for me, it's fantastic, because I'm a huge believer that if more people knew, they would choose the cooperative movement and the cooperative. Who can choose what they don't know exists? It's very difficult, right? You need to reinvent it, and not necessarily you would have the time or the passion or the energy to reinvent something. But once you know it exists, it's just easier to choose it. And we're not talking about a super new, maybe not so trendy in the sidelines movement. It's actually something that's been going on for a long time, and it's rather natural for most of the people, even at the school level, when you create groups, when you start working together, when you just interact in social life, cooperation is rather natural, right? And then for some reason we just take it out from our education system and become much more competitive. And suddenly, the success that one student or one member of the education system can have depends on how great they do, not only for themselves, but actually compared to other people. So, cooperation is actually sidelined to actual competition for them to be just the best students, which I think is changing. Thank God. Good news also, I think, is changing, and this competence development curriculum is actually allowing for most spaces for cooperation than not. So I think that you come with a great solution in a great time as well. So I think that this is fantastic. And I'm one of the believers that the cooperative movement and entrepreneurship can be taught. So when people ask me, do you think entrepreneurs are born or are educated? I always answer that it's like a muscle. You go to the gym, you train. You go to entrepreneurship school, you learn. And not necessarily something that you can learn in books, although you can understand in books. I don't think that until you are in the place, you understand fully what you're going against. So I come from the Mondragon University. I studied in Mondragon University in the first official degree on entrepreneurship, was the first generation. And after 4 years, we decided to go on and create a company among 7 people. We're now 30 in 5 countries. So I faced some challenges as well. And when people come to Mondragon and ask about, the creation of new co-ops, there are not a lot of people, not a lot of young people that have created co-ops in Mondragon, because most of the co-ops are quite old. So most of the people are retired. So not a lot of people can tell the story of creating co-ops, right? And then people come and ask about whether this model can be replicated worldwide. And most of the people would say no, because it has so many cultural things and so many just spaces in time and culture. But I am one of the people that thinks that it can be replicated. But we forget that the priest, before creating the first co-op, spent 10 years educating the community. Who has the time to spend 10 years for the first outcomes to come true? we're used to super quick outcomes, right? We don't have 10 years to educate some community to understand a model and then start creating co-ops. And suddenly, oh, they are like mushrooms, so many co-ops. No. So 10 years of boom, 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 in church, in school, and blah, blah, blah. And suddenly our community becomes more cooperative than not. So understand that we are in the right decision, and I think we are in the right path to make this happen, right? And I think that in YOUCOOPE, as you shared, you faced incredible challenges, but the best solutions come of challenging times. And I think that maybe this online-offline situation has allowed us to break some boundaries that we had so enrooted in the educational system, right? Suddenly we can look beyond the walls of a school, and I think it's one of the best times to rethink education, because for once, and this applies to the cooperative model, we're not limited to a space that is physical. So I think that suddenly the connections that we are going to create and that we're creating become global for the good and the bad, but become so much beyond what we're used to at the physical level. And I think that this is a fantastic situation to, understand the way we educate and the way people learn. Because one of the things that one teacher told me in a school that we teach in Switzerland is, it seems like schools have become a place where people teach and not a place where people learn. And I think this is a huge misunderstanding of what we're trying to do at schools. We're not trying to teach. We're trying for people to learn and become better people once they're out, right? I think we are in the right space to challenge the reach of the educational system. And I'm not talking just at what we said and at the ground levels of school, but also how education transforms into the community and how it does, reaches out to beyond classrooms, beyond school walls, beyond parents, beyond neighborhoods. I think we're at a right place to understand how do we engage with education and the stakeholders of education. Who are the stakeholders in education? And sometimes when we talk stakeholders, we tend to think structure, but I'm a huge defender that one of the main stakeholders are the users, and these are the students. So it's like, how do we involve and engage these people in redesigning education? And also, which tools are we using? Which tools do we have at our fingertips? Which information do we have now more than ever that can be serving educational purposes? And with all of these, I don't mean that technology is going to be this life saver, because another developer friend of mine said, you can have the best platform, but unless you have humans that are trained and willing to use it, it may as well not have it, because technology is not going to develop education. It's going to be a great tool to foster whatever inside things we want to foster through it. So let's not limit ourselves to think which technology we have or we can offer, but what do we want from technology to be reaching beyond our maybe logic that we've spent so far. And but then the other thing is that we have a great challenge, because for me, entrepreneurship, it's a way of life. It's a way of looking at life. It doesn't mean you create a company. It doesn't mean you create a co-op. It means you are in life willing to change the reality that you're surrounded by, however you decide. So I think this is a huge challenge for people that are, in touch with students and youth in general. How do you place in their minds that they're capable of transforming their reality, but not necessarily need to feel the pressure of becoming entrepreneurs? Because when they are entrepreneurs in the more old-fashioned way, you always think, oh, an entrepreneur creates a company, blah, 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 but that is not the reality. I think entrepreneurs is everyone that, takes over an action, an activity, and is willing to transform their reality with that. So that's one. And doing it in a cooperative way just means doing it together and helping each other. Like, oh, cooperative is so difficult. Two people, we get together, we think, at least three more, because you cannot cooperate with one person. Alone, multiple personalities maybe, but in general,
comes with other problems.
Yes. We are called crazy enough with one personality per cooperator. Okay, so I think that it means collaborating. It means reaching beyond our comfort zone to people that may think like us or may not think like us. And this is huge, you know, and it's just exposing yourself in a way that it's fantastic. And I remember that youth, and I always say this, as some of you have heard me, but youth is not a topic. Youth is people. And we talk about youth as if it were, I don't know, the trees, but no, they are a collective of people that have opinion and have the power to action. So my invitation is always like, how do we reach out to these people for designing and not for implementing? Because I think that disengages the reality they live on. And so I'm going to finish by saying that Arizmendiarrieta, because I come from Mondragon, I cannot finish without a quote of Arizmendiarrieta. Arizmendiarrieta used to say the world has been giving us not to observe it, but to transform it. So I think that you're in the right path, and this is just one more step ahead in the educational cooperative movement. So thank you so much for all your hard work, and congratulations. It's been fantastic.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Anna. And one of the questions that comes from online, so Hazel Ismail is asking, what can other universities learn from Mondragon University based on your experience as a student there?
Okay, this is super cool because when I talk about the university and about Mondragon, I like to say the goods and the bads because no one's perfect. This is great. This is great that we understand that there's goods and there's bads. I think one thing about Mondragon is that it is a small university comparing to others. And one thing that I love about Mondragon University is that it's a worker-owned cooperative. That means that staff, its member, the students are members, and the companies that it serves, in a way, are members. So everyone has a huge amount of participatory power. But most of the people don't know, which is the bads, right? So if you're a student there, you probably go through students and you don't even know that you had the right to be in a general assembly or even an advisory council. So I think Mondragon takes a lot of challenges, and I think the leadership, entrepreneurship, and innovation degree that I was part of as first generation is a huge show of it. And it is always willing to serve the movement, maybe not for a choice they make, but because of a mission they serve, right? They were created as the developers of cooperators because Arizmendiarrieta understood that in order to have good co-ops, they needed good cooperators. So I think that it is very close to the environment they want to serve, either private sector, public sector, whatever. And I think it actually takes quite so many steps into adapting the curriculum to the needs of the people they're going to serve. But again, I think that there is so much to be done, and I think that one of the beautiful things is that they are starting to take and work with different universities in these kind of projects, like also at the European level, and actually expanding their way of working at the global level. And I think this allows so much space for collaboration, and I think they're open to that. So that's, I don't know if that's a learning lesson, but and one thing that I really liked is that when they created this entrepreneurship program in Mondragon Team Academy, they wanted to do it from inside the system. They didn't want it to create a parallel process that, you know, challenge everything we understand as a university. And I think this is a huge overtake because instead of creating something parallel that they could just give an okay diploma for, they decided to, you know, go through the system and transform from within. So I think that power is huge, and it just settles an example for themselves as well.
Super. So we will take also some questions from the audience. Amanda, please.
I just have all the questions. What I'd like to find out is about like involving young people in that kind of creation at the beginning. Like, what are the most effective ways that you've been able to do that with young people? But also, how are you able to persuade the sort of traditional stakeholders that normally control that kind of interaction and persuade them to really authentically involve those young people and not just pay lip service to including young people in that design phase?
Good question. Very good question. I think in every organization, there are enthusiasts. They're everywhere. They're some more hidden than others, but I think in every organization, you can find people that dare to dream in a way. And in Tasebaes, in my company, that by the way means why not, it's not just a random name. I think we try to look to for those people in every organization. And it's super difficult. And they have so many limitations inside. And normally these people that are very active, they have so much going on that they can't take more in their plate a lot of the times because they are those people, right? But I think what we've learned in our short 13 years experience is that you need to look for the humans behind the organizations, and they are going to be ready to challenge. And if you give them a platform to collaborate with others like them, they feel less alone, they feel more empowered. And I think that when we talk about humans, one super cool guy from China that we work with said, the energy of creation is the only thing that when shared, it grows. So you don't divide the energy, right? You create more when you share. And I think this happens with these entrepreneurs, because at the end of the day, these people inside of organizations are entrepreneurs. And a lot of the times they feel as alone as if they were taking over their own project. So when you connect them to these people and these other people and allow them to dream together with the support platform of someone that is beyond the walls of their organizations, it's huge. Because most of the time, people try to believe more to those that come from outside than those two are preaching inside. So if you give them excuses to be heard inside of the organization and to say, I've been doing this for years, and you're listening to this girl that is coming now outside, this is fantastic for them, because you take over their shoulders the responsibility of doing a good job and connect them with other people. And that's how to engage with the other stakeholders that may be barriers for that. It's a lot of hitting your head against a wall, and in a lot of senses, when I do it, is because, and I talk about this a lot, is that I hope that when I hit myself against the wall, I'm doing it not before the wall will move in my lifetime, but because someone behind me is not going to need to move that wall. So in a lot of senses, what I think most of the time is that the people in the system are older than me in general. So eventually they'll retire and I'll still be here. So eventually I'll take over that, right? But I think that when you show that something works, and you show results, and you show expertise, and you have the arguments to argue why your point is valid, I think logic just falls eventually. And this all becomes something that one person can try to limit. But, also another colleague of ours said, revolutions are only revolutions when you lose control of them. You can't control a revolution. So I think when more people take over, more people are connected, and more people are willing to do something, eventually it just runs. But it's tough. It's tough.
Amal, I have a question.
Thank you for your dynamic presentation. Just question, what should be the message to be sent to policymakers at regional, national, or even international level, and probably even to improve their cooperation to make better decisions?
I have a youth policy agenda right after this. 1, 2, 3, we have a policy agenda on youth. So good question. I have studied for this. Thanks, Georgia. I have a thought for this. But mainly I've experienced the headaches of going against that. I think that maybe this is very bad and it's being recorded and a lot of people are hearing it and I shouldn't be saying this, but I think when you talk to politicians and policymakers, when you come with demands, they are frustrated because they have so many. You come with solutions and they like you, right? So when you come saying, oh, we should do this, oh, we need more of this, we need more of this, and you can tell them, hey, we have this that will solve this problem, and you forget about the problem, and I solve it for you. Okay, are we good? And then you solve them and tell them, no, we've tried this before in our little scale. Now I'm going to help you to solve this very big problem you have. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't work, but you don't get a headache anymore. And this is on a very small level in Bilbao. We have been working like this with people in the Entrepreneurship and Innovation Council of Bilbao. It was just, you have this problem about engaging youth. You have this problem or you think you have this problem because probably you have never talked to youth about the problem. You just talk among yourselves and decide that youth has this problem and that you are going to design something that amazingly is going to spark the youth entrepreneurship problem. And you were youth and you hated when people told you the same thing, but you forgot about that. So you have a problem, and suddenly someone comes and tells you, okay, I've done this. It looks like it works. If we create this, maybe this is something. Then the hard tough thing is that they need to open a public call. There is so many people that can do it, and this is huge, amazing processes, the public system, but also fair. But eventually you start a road that takes somewhere, no? And I think that with the relation with politicians and policymakers and agents of change needs to be that you are helping them and that this is something that they can leave their mark on thanks to what you are perceiving. Because at the end of the day, they're there to make changes. They are fighting their own fights, which is also something that we need to be aware of. And they're hearing from so many people about so many problems that probably they don't know how to solve. So one thing that is important for me is understanding. And the more I am in different collectives, the more I understand this. A lot of people talk about things that they don't understand. And they need to look like they do. So if you help them look okay, bring results, and can show arguments that your thing is stable, I think you make their life a lot better. And they may listen. May listen.
Great.
May is important.
And we have some examples to present today because I'm from the public service of Wallonia. This is the position, and it's why this question is really interesting.
And I think that spaces like this that show examples that are working in some other places, they just, you are making the life of so many people so much easier. Like, okay, this works in Bologna. Oh, look, it looks in Bologna. Oh, yes, but this is very difficult. The reality is very difficult. Yes, it's very difficult. But I can talk to the people that did it there. This is a huge step. Can we? And, when you show things that work, people tend to believe that thanks to them, it's going to work. So you allow them that space, and I think it's better.
Okay,
I think.
Great. Thanks a lot.
Maybe not.
Anna, big applause again. Thanks for joining us. It's a pleasure. We will for sure be in contact with you. I mean, you're not going to get rid of us so easily.
I made it.
Okay, great. Yeah, we convinced us. We were already believers. I mean,